All right, we're back again with the Mets crew. We have myself, we have my Uncle Ivan, and we have my father Jeffrey. So there has been a lot going on in the Major League Baseball world. Winter meetings started up either was it today? Was it yesterday? One of the two.
Yes.
Yesterday. Yeah, yesterday was Monday. I'm getting all my days mixed up. So winter meetings started. But before then, there was a big upsetting news for the Mets. Jacob deGrom signs with the Texas Rangers. 5 years, $185 million with a 6-year option for him to, continue playing there until he's 40, 41. They said, Texas Rangers president or whoever it was said, this was a decision he made because he wants to play for a winner. The Rangers were 68 and 94 last year, so I don't know what the heck he was talking about. But he said he liked the winning culture that they had here, instead of playing for the 101 win Mets. But anyways, I wanted to know, what did you guys think about Jacob deGrom leaving? What does that mean for the New York Mets and for Jacob deGrom?
Yeah. Well, personally, it it's a little easy to talk about right now because we know what happened. Right at the time, it seemed tough because where are you going? What's going on? We just lost deGrom. Now we definitely need that pitcher, but we were able to fill that void, obviously, with Justin Verlander. I think ultimately, I really like the path the Mets are going in the sense of doing the shorter, higher deals than the longer ones that come to bite you from behind. And listen, deGrom might do wonderfully over there with Texas, and I'm sure he will. The question will be, will he be healthy for all those years, all 6 years? We hope he is. We don't wish him bad. But at the end of the day, I still like the maneuverability that you have. And, we still have to sign Alonso. We still have to sign McNeil, as it comes about. Maybe we can offer them those extensions now, similar to what the Braves have done with their younger fellas. And this will allow us to do that because you're not tied up with all that money for those 6 years. Your big tie-up, obviously, is the shortstop, Francisco, who Lindor, who it ties up our that long-term high deal for the long time. Nobody else is at that on the Mets, so it gives you maneuverability. So I'm not.
Well, I'll just say, okay. Sorry, Jeff. I just like to add to that, is it French fries or is it tater tots? I mean, which one is it? Because when I'm looking at this situation here, I'm saying to myself, if we don't get the ground, I want Verlander. And you know what? I was kind of on record saying that I really didn't care if they got rid of deGrom. The guy had a sour puss on his face for the last 60 games when he was playing. He was warming up for the Mets. That was his rehab assignment because I don't think he was ever into playing for the Mets. He never had a smile on his face. It never made sense to me. Now it makes sense to me. He never had any intention of staying here. He was always looking to go. And let me tell you something. I think the Mets knew it. That's why they were talking to Verlander. They didn't even have communication with him. This was all a setup. They had this all played along. They didn't want to be the bad guy. They didn't want Met fans thinking, hey, we don't want to make an offer or we're going to really let him go because he's going to have this great legacy with the New York Mets. We all really wanted that. We thought it was going to be the second statue next to Tom Seaver. But that didn't happen. He wanted to go. The Mets moved on. I think the Mets have a bet. This is really their ideology. They want 2-year, 3-year contracts. They got that out of Verlander. They don't want to soak themselves into someone who's 34, 35, has pitched 12 games over the last 2 seasons, basically, but with a record last year of 5-4. With all those great pitching, it was 5-4, and that's over 2 years. The Mets don't even have a great record. Basically, I think it's 1 game or 2 games over 500 with pitching. They never really hit for him, so I don't see this as a loss. I know there's a lot of people out there that are making claims either one way or the other. Some putting down the Mets are having 2 guys over 40 years. You know what? I have faith in Buck Showalter. I do believe that he will play it a little differently this time. I'm hoping for a 6-man rotation, but it's really not enough for the Mets. They kind of just replaced him with someone who I think will actually pitch more games this year than Jacob deGrom. Jacob deGrom, I think I've mentioned this. I think he was kind of hurt. he really started off well. Remember the first game? He was striking out everyone, basically the first 3 games. Then what happened? The arm starts to hurt a little. He's not saying anything because he's not an idiot. He's going to say, I'm going to get that contract. Here come the Texas Rangers that are totally desperate to get any sort of pitching. Take a look at what they spent last year. They spent a fortune, and what did they get? They got 0 results. They're continuing that pattern of idiocy. And yeah, I know the Mets are going to make their moves, and they're going to do fine. And I really like what happened, but I know I'm a little greedy. I want Carlos Rodon. I really believe they need Rodon. They finalize that rotation. I don't see them getting Bassett, especially with the changes in the pitching rules next year.
And let me, yeah, I agree with that. And let me tell you something. You brought an excellent point. How Buck will alter the way he does the pitching staff and the team in general. He's a smart manager. He's a smart guy. He knows what he's doing. I think the Mets overexceeded themselves last year, meaning that they got to where, the 101 wins, they got to that playoff point, and it was like, holy crap. So he didn't have that time to figure out how to change that pitching staff earlier on. Plus, he had injuries in Scherzer and DeGrom during the year, so he couldn't necessarily do what he wanted to do. So to your point, if the Mets decide to go in with a 6-man rotation or a 5+1 on days where we have, real back-to-back games, and that happened this year, and that happened more this year because remember the season started a little later this year. I think he can manage that a little bit better and make Scherzer and Verlander last longer.
Well, Verlander was definitely not impressive. I also like Scherzer when it came down to the playoffs. Look at Verlander, how we did against the Phillies. He didn't perform well. In fact, I think they didn't even let him pitch the final game. He was really on 5 days rest. He was supposed to pitch that game, and he didn't pitch it. They let him go one more, and they won the World Series without him in the series before. So he faltered at the end as well, something you can look at with Scherzer. So it's really going to be up to Buck Showalter this year to really plan it out properly and say to myself, I don't need 101 wins. Maybe I need 95 wins. I need to get, or 90 wins, and just get into the playoffs with a fresher Scherzer and fresher Verlander. Listen, Buck's not an idiot. He's gonna readjust.
Yep. So before we go into more about Verlander, I still have a little bit more I want to talk about with DeGrom. As you mentioned before, pitched 11 games last year, hasn't pitched more than 15 games a year for the past 3 years as a Met. With all his time with the Mets, like you said, never a smile on his face, never really wanted to be around the team. Whenever he was rehabbing, never wanted to be there. Mets were never given a chance to match the offer that the Rangers made. Now, they definitely wouldn't have matched it, but never even given the chance. Cohen, it was reported, offered for DeGrom to be flown out every 5 days to pitch with a new contract because he did not want to stay with the team, which would have been an absolute disaster. But it just shows how much he hated being in New York and just didn't want to be there. He wanted to be back home in Florida or closer to it. Everyone knows this was a business decision. 68 and 94 is the team that he went to. He's not doing anything to win. So going off of that, what do you think this free agency signing for him going to the Texas Rangers means for his legacy, not only for the Mets, but as a major league player, he'll still make the Hall of Fame, but where does his legacy go from here with this business decision?
I think it might go the same way Mike Hampton's did. Mike chose the Colorado Rockies for their school system and signed 10 years. And, I think his kids might have done well in college. I don't know. I think he might have done just as good here in New York. What does it do to his legacy? Well, the legacy as a Met, I think it's half and half. If the Mets fall apart and don't go anywhere the next couple of years, and everything runs out that same 6 years, he retires, blah blah blah. I think he's still welcome. It's like, oh look, Mookie's here. Oh look, DeGrom is here. I don't think Mets fans will ever disown him per se. However, if the Mets do very well over these next 3 to 6 years without DeGrom, I think DeGrom is certainly somebody that helped us in certain seasons, but I think it really diminishes his Mets legacy. Yeah.
It all comes down to how the Mets are performing. Mets are winning. They're going to have, they're going to be very kind to DeGrom because they're going to have a winning team. Mets are losing. They're going to blame it on DeGrom for him losing, and he's going to get it. But he'll probably do the same thing that, what's his name, Syndergaard did over there. He'll catch a cold. I don't know. His arm will hurt. His toenail will fall off. Who knows? He won't pitch. Yeah, that's basically what I see happening.
Yeah, and based off of this, it's it's going to appear like DeGrom is never going to win a World Series. It's not like the Rangers are close. We had the group of five with DeGrom, Harvey, Syndergaard, Wheeler, and Bartolo Colon. And we said this was
It was Mats. That was the last
it
one.
was Mats, yeah, Mats, and
Yeah.
then Bartolo was the sixth one. I
Yeah.
couldn't think of who it was. So none of them have won a World Series, and that was the group that we said this is the legendary group that they're gonna grow old together, and they're gonna be Mets for life, and everyone's gonna win a World Series, and it's gonna be an unstoppable force. They've all gone their all separate ways, and none of them have won.
Well, one team
We
only
already
wins the World Series each year. Jacob deGrom knows that, baseball changes real quick. Don't be surprised if the Texas Rangers turn it around one day. The Mets turned it around. All teams can turn it around. Texas Rangers are actually an organization that they're spending the money. They're trying to make that turn. I'm sure they sold them a good story there of what they're going to do. And listen, the Philadelphia Phillies were barely making the playoffs, and they made it to the World Series. So it's a different type of system now. You don't have to win the division; you just have to get in. So a lot of different things can happen. I think he's probably the way he's looking at it. He's 1 hour away, maybe an hour and a half tops by a plane. He can hop on a plane any day and go back to Florida, and go in the swamps or whatever he wants to do over there. And that's what he wants to enjoy his life. I mean, look at Verlander. I'm sure the Houston Nationals now are pissed off. I'm sure with Matt Scherzer, the Los Angeles Dodger fans were annoyed that he went to the Mets. This is just the way baseball is. The only key important thing is, what did the Mets do? The Mets replaced him. Now we're exactly where we were last year. Well, not exactly. We don't have a center fielder. We don't have a bullpen. We don't have a third starter. So the Mets haven't done enough work as of yet.
Yep. So we'll touch about on that in a little bit. But first, let's go into the post of DeGrom leaving, just like Cohen did last time when Mats left, and Mats was gone right away. We said we're going to sign someone better. We're going to sign Scherzer. This time around, we signed Justin Verlander, 2 years, $86 million, reigning AL Cy Young champion, 39 years old. It's not like he's a young sprout, but if you're doing that at 39, you're probably going to still do it at 40.
Let's talk about Verlander for a second on that too, because if you go back to how Houston used him, and to Ivan's point, how he died during the end of the year, Houston used him a lot. And if you look at all the different things about Verlander, he pitched a lot of innings. Dusty Baker liked to go to him because he knew he could rest his pen. You know what? Maybe we don't rest our pen. Maybe we continue to, and I don't know how we're going, and this will be for you guys to discuss or all of us to discuss, but how our pen is going to continue to get stronger or weaker or stay the same. We don't know because there's a lot to fill. But if maybe you only pitch him 7 innings and therefore he's stronger towards the end of the year, right?
Well, DeGrom, that's the thing with DeGrom. I mean, the Texas Rangers, they're going to be silly if they think he's going to start 30 games because he's never had a full season in about 3 years. COVID and the injury season, the first injury season that he was out. And then last year, he only pitched 12 games or something like that. So how are you going to expect him to come with 30 games? Same thing with Verlander. Let's remember, I think, Brian, check me if I'm wrong, but I think he was out for 2 years, basically. He took the COVID off, and then he was out of season. So last year was his first year back. And he did rebound and pitched a lot. But I just don't see that. I don't see that happening with DeGrom. So how the Mets play, you turn around and say, well, maybe he did as best he can, and he won't be as effective this year. You have to believe in common sense that age is going to catch up, and he's going to have diminishing returns as the year goes on or as the years go on. But it all really comes into play. Buck has to be that manager who uses Verlander correctly, whatever that is, 6 innings, 7 innings, however they want to do it. That's up to them at that point. The team isn't made. If you read what happened, we all read it with his brother making the comments, the Mets aren't nearly done. They basically told him that they're going to get a bunch of new guys. And it's going to different face. It's going to look quite differently than it did at the end of the season. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I think with Verlander, the Mets did not expect to like him as much as they did in their meetings. I think with what Cohen has done in his future and what he's looking at, the analytic department at the New York Mets has gone up so much, and Justin Verlander is one of the most analytic-driven pitchers. So, and with meetings that I've heard with meetings with him compared to DeGrom, they barely made communication with DeGrom, and Cohen and Verlander just hit it off right away. And it seemed like they weren't going to really go out of their way to get DeGrom when they knew Verlander was there for the taking. He fit better in our system in terms of following the analytics, following the trends. This is exactly the type of player that Steve Cohen wants for our future. He's a leader in the locker room. You know, people say Jacob deGrom's a leader, but he's a leader by action. And he doesn't talk to anyone else or do anything like that. Verlander's just as competitive as Scherzer. They're going to drive each other even more. They played together in Detroit, got into a couple arguments there, but everyone said from the clubhouse that there were more arguments that were just driving each other forward, you know, trying to outcompete the other person. It was never malicious, but you know, some people take that one way or the other.
You got to understand, Max is a big leader. He was a leader on this team this year, and Verlander's a leader. So sometimes, you know, you butt heads a little bit. So those things happen.
Absolutely.
I don't see that happening now. That's when they were younger. Now they're 40 years old. These are two totally different people than they were at that point. I just see it's a great, great leadership, good leadership, great leadership. Actually, I have two leaders. Jacob deGrom never wanted that. So, we really shouldn't bash Jacob deGrom. He was a great Met. The way he pitched was unbelievable, but I just think his better days are behind him. And I think that the Texas Rangers paid $186 million plus to the performances he did in New York. And that's with any contract. It's always, you're paying him for what he did for someone else. It's not what he's done for you. So, you have to be confident about it. But, the Mets are in great shape in terms of, listen, the Mets didn't even make another move. I still think they win 85 plus games. And they're at minimum, they're going to make, the playoffs, even as a wild card. They're in it at least to make that. So, they have two great starters. You have to assume maybe one's going to get hurt. So,
absolutely. Absolutely. And then with both Verlander and Scherzer, both World Series winners, both proven. But now we need a third starter. Bassett is still unsigned. Taijuan Walker is still unsigned. So we still have some holes within our starting rotation. So there's a couple pitchers out there. You mentioned Carlos Rodon. There's also Kadai Senga as well, and a few others. But those are the two main ones that I think that could be options for the Mets. Who would you rather have? You have, Rodon, who's, MLB proven, lefty pitcher. He's going to command a lot of years, a lot of money. Kadai Senga, a little more of a risk. One of the best pitchers in the Japanese league, known for his splitter. He, and that's something that's been proven to be the splitter has been shown to be over the past couple of years to be very successful in the MLB for whatever reason. So that could be something that people are saying analytically could be a good move to get Senga. So between Rodon or him, which one would you prefer?
What does Senga cost compared to Rodon?
I mean, he's definitely going to cost less because it's a risk because he's never pitched in the MLB before. I think the market is still high for both of them. Both have like at least 5 to 6 teams interested. So it's going to all come down to the bidding war. But I think that Senga will cost at least maybe like 10 million less per year.
Yeah. I to be honest with you, there's two guys I would like to get. Senga would be one of them over Rodon at this point. Rodon costs you too much. You already put that money into Verlander and you're not going to have it to if you do that, then you're really going to get a subpar pitcher. I think, and I know Ivan's not a fan. I still am a fan of Taijuan Walker, and I think under the fast pitching rules, and he's a fast pitcher. He likes to take the ball and pitch it. I like these types of guys. I think Bassett's a great pitcher, but Bassett's going to cost you just as much, if not more, especially in the years as Walker. And I think I'd rather go with the younger Walker. He's got a better, I think, a snappier arm, and I think he's going to really do well in the fast pitching, where I don't think you're going to get that out of Bassett. Okay, Bassett's a slow pitcher, methodical, and maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but I see him being very slow. And if they enforce those rules on getting the fast pitch, I think Walker might be the best of that group. Don't put your money in Rodon. I listen, if I can get them all and there was no salary cap, so you can spend as much money, sure, you get the best you can get. But I don't think that's the option. So I think you get Walker, and I think you take a chance on the Japanese kid.
Well, I would like Rodon, but I don't believe it's going to happen for those very reasons. I just don't see the Mets giving another $100 million contract to a pitcher. I mean, of course, I'd want it. It's not my money. And I don't even think when you exceed $300 million, I think the tax brings you up to like 100,000 more. So, you're looking at exceeding that number. Cohen's payroll can go over, actually in dollars, can go over $400 million because of the tax. I don't think they're going to do it. And I think they're going to, and I don't actually think they're going to get Senga either. For some reason, I feel that, it'd be a great for the market. I mean, to bring a Japanese pitcher in here, you're going to have a great every time he pitches, he's going to be packed in there. So I wouldn't mind him. I would go in that direction. I'm willing to take that risk. I just fearful that's not going to happen because I actually believe if it's a Taiwan Walker or that type of level, I really think the Mets are going to downgrade on the third starter, and I think they're going to start looking for some offense because they got to look at that point differential, and they're just not scoring enough runs. And I think that's where the money's going to go. I know it's not about money with Cohen, but at some point, it's got to be something about money because the way they tax you there, it's like quadruple the amount. So it's, at some point he's going to say, I don't mind spending 310, 320, 330, but now with the tax 480, I don't know. That's what I heard. And if that's true, he's not going to do it. So I don't think they're going to get either one of those two. I really don't. I think it could be, and I don't think they're going to get Bassett either. I just don't hear.
Well, Bassett wants 5 years, so 4 years, and so I think Bassett's out. But you know what? It's possible that they say, you know what, we got. Listen, I know this isn't the strongest team, but you still got Tyler McGill, you still got Peterson. Let's see what goes with that. If I put the money to good use by getting, I'll say Nimmo for the moment because we don't have a center fielder, but if you put that money back into the offense, then you don't always need as much defense. And I don't mean defense in the Sterling Marte way where he's such a great outfielder, but more so in the pitching.
Angels are out of the playoffs. We got to stop focusing just on the beginning of the season. The Phillies proved that. A bunch of teams proved that. Angels are out of the playoffs. Ashanti's over there. At the end of the year, you get another hitter, you get in a pitcher as well. I mean, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm just saying we have to stop focusing on what April, 1st or whatever, what the starting lineup and what the roster is. We've seen very much so. It's that and the trading deadline is extremely important. So, I know the Mets are talking. They're going to make a lot of moves. I think it's going to be on the offensive side. I really do. And that's where I'd put my money. You have to score. The Mets couldn't score. That's why they were eliminated.
So going off of that, needing offense, Brandon Nimmo at the winter meetings, pitching himself to different teams. Mets are reported to not be meeting with him at the winter meetings. They're still in contact with him, but that does not appear to be the case. I've heard that if they don't sign him, they're interested in Kevin Kiermaier, a very good defensive center fielder who doesn't bring too much offense to your team. Other options include Andrew Benintendi as well. Also, average player. So if you don't get Nimmo, you make a big decline. Do you think that it's vital to bring Nimmo back, or can we let him go?
Listen, depends on what you're looking for. Would it be nice to have Nimmo back? I think we've had some offline discussions about this, and the proposal that I see is Nimmo as important if somehow you move Marte to center, you move McNeil to left, you put Beatty over at third, you move our third baseman Escobar over to second. Well, now things start to line up a little bit better, and you could sit there and go, and listen, having the extra guy gives you the depth. So I'm not saying I don't want to get a Nimmo, but assuming Nimmo doesn't sign with the Mets because we don't know what the Mets mindset is at, maybe they're looking at somebody else. Maybe they're looking at Aaron Judge. Doubtful. I think we heard some leaks that he's signing with San Francisco. That was drawn back. Listen, if you're Aaron Judge, you're signing with one of two teams. You're signing with San Francisco. You're signing with the Yankees. That's it. So, don't even think about bringing him in unless there's some kind of deal going on behind the scenes like a Verlander where we're just being quiet about it. Don't think that's happening. So, do you want a Nimmo? I mean, it gives you more depth. The question is, how much does it cost to have depth? If you take the other rotation, you don't go after Nimmo, you move McNeil, you move these guys. Well, now you have more money on the plate again. You have 1 year left of the wonderful second baseman, Cano. So that's a little bit of the problem. So can you get by with those guys and try to figure out how to get a little more depth? I don't know who's in the minors.
Well, I'm going to go on record. I'm going to tell you the Mets are not re-signing Brandon Nimmo. That is
Yeah,
not happening.
I'm pretty
And I can just
confident
tell
you're
you,
right.
they don't even talk to him. They're not even talking to the guy. They have expressed no interest. He is running around talking to everyone. This doesn't seem like listen, the Mets wanted Verlander. They're talking to him every minute. They're having conferences with him. Nimmo is career with the Mets is over. He's not worth 120 million of what he's going to get, and he's gone. So the Mets have to look forward. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think it's going to come into free agency because there's no one left. Trey Turner's off the market. There's no one left who's going to be a trade. The Mets are going to get someone in a trade, and I don't even know again if it's going to happen. Listen, I'm actually thinking that the Nets are going to do nothing else the rest of this week. I don't anything of a significance. They're going to sign minor
Maybe a
leaguers, blah blah
relief
blah.
pitcher. Yeah.
I just don't see Mets doing anything, and I just don't see it happening. And I don't know who's going to play center. I don't know if it's going to be your scenario. I don't know.
It's interesting that you mentioned a trade because, center fielder for the Pirates, Brian Reynolds, has requested a trade. And, that's someone that if we lose Nimmo, maybe we could go after him. It's the thing of the whole process of the Mets so far in these past years since Cohen has got here is hold on to our prospects, buy free agents until we could develop them because the minor leagues are just washed out. There's not a lot of talent there. So if we get Brian Reynolds, someone like that, we're having to give away probably Kevin Parada, our first round pick that we just drafted, the catcher. Granted, we have a catcher with Francisco Alvarez if he's good, but we don't know that yet. So there's a lot of risks involved, but Brian Reynolds could be an option. And like you said, it doesn't have to be April 1st. We just need to get ourselves to be 500, maybe a little more at the trade deadline, and then we can see what happens.
Yeah, and just to finish up Jeffrey's point there, the Mets should move Alonso to catcher, Alvarez to first. We want them moving all around. We don't want anyone, not one player in the right position, because if we want Marte in left, we want Canner in right, and we don't even want anyone in center field anymore. We have to move them over. Listen, the Mets really are not very settled right now, so we'll see what's going to happen. And Reynolds is an infielder. He's not an outfielder. I think he play. He's an infielder for the Pirates. And how many baseball players demand trades? How many? You rarely ever hear it. You want to know why? It only happens in the NFL and the NBA. You want to know why it doesn't happen in the Major League Baseball? Because there's an unwritten rule. It doesn't happen. That guy's not getting traded because if they do that for him, that opens up the whole basket, and every player can do that. Then it's not going to happen.
Who's the center fielder for the Angels? Does anyone know?
No, but we can get his right fielder. We can trade for Ashanti and Trout. Maybe we can give them. Let's see, who would they take? Would
Not
they take
the right fielder.
McCann? I'd give you,
Thomas.
McCann. If they want McCann, it's a hard giveaway. It's I could do it.
There were actually some thoughts, surprisingly, that the Rangers possibly want to trade
There
for McCann, which is insane. I don't know what they saw that they want him, but
What they can have?
DeGrom.
yeah. Reynolds is an outfielder, by the way.
Oh, he is. What?
Yeah.
What position?
Pretty sure it's center. Yeah, center.
Oh, perfect. Let's get him.
Yeah.
The last guy we got from the Pirates was really good. Chase and Shreve.
Sure.
He was the last Pirate we got. That went well.
That is
it was a free agency.
all right. So we have we have all these possible changes.
Can we get Zach Wilson for center field?
Yeah.
I heard he may be available. He's not playing anymore.
That's true. That's true. He really isn't. Man, I mean, so the Mets, the NL East continues to get harder and harder. It never, seems to fail. Like you said, Trey Turner signs with the Phillies 11 years, I think 300 million, something around there. A ridiculous number. I was so happy the second Trey Turner was out of that NL East, and now he's completely back for the next 11 years. Do the Phillies worry you more than the Braves now, or is it still the Braves division to lose? Because Dansby Swanson is a free agent. It seems like he's going to leave, possibly go to the Cubs, maybe go to the Cardinals. But now with Trey Turner going to the Phillies, I don't know who's scarier. What do you think?
I'm scared of the Phillies more than the Braves, but I guess I'm equally as scared of both.
I would say that a lot of people can rationalize and say the Mets are the third best team right now in the National League East. It's very possible. I think they're, I think it's between the three teams. Either one of them could do it.
Yep, it's going to be a gauntlet of a year, and it's still early on in this offseason process. We still have a lot to go before we wrap it up. is there any predictions you have before the next time we talk, before another signing happens? What do you think is on the table for Aaron Judge? If it's for the Mets, what do you think is the next big splash?
The next big splash is San Francisco gets Aaron Judge.
Yeah, that's going to happen. That's going to happen. I mean, I don't know if the Mets are going to make another splash. I said that before. I'm kind of thinking it's going to be all small little moves, and maybe something will happen.
Yankees are going to dump and then the Yankees are going to dump their money into Brandon Nimmo.
I was just going to say, I really do think that Aaron Judge is going to sign with the Giants and Nimmo is going to be a New York Yankee. I would not be surprised in the least if that's what happens.
From what I'm hearing,
Yankees are more and more interested in Nimmo every day.
I can actually picture him in those pinstripes.
Right, but he wants to be called Nemo if he goes there.
Captain Nemo.
Captain Nemo. Nemo's overrated.
The only thing I'll have to say, Nemo's a great guy. He's great attitude in it, and that's what you'll lose from Nimmo. But that's not by our choice. It's basically he just doesn't fit in to the monetary desires and the way we have to set the team up.
Who has in front of them Brandon Nimmo's statistics? Read those statistics to me, Brian.
Yeah, I know. You pointed out that he's a little overrated. He's not as good as we think he is.
Those numbers are not that great.
A 274 average last year, 16 homers, 64 RBIs.
What was his on-base percentage with the walks?
His OPS was 800. I'm waiting for the on-base percentage.
OPS is 800 is not fantastic.
367.
367.
Well, leadoff hitter.
Not 400.
No. Yeah, it was actually below his career average of 385.
He's no Rod Carew.
No.
You don't even know what that is, Brian.
Yeah, no Rod Carew. And you know what? You know what I'm going to say? The lineup has to be considered here, too. Are the Mets a better lineup without Nimmo, so to speak? Because Nimmo was really either first, he was never a seventh. So you had to keep him 1 and 2. Does that make Lindor in a better spot going back to the number 2 hole that he liked?
I mean, it all depends on who we get in replacing him, but there doesn't seem to be anyone else who's better than him on the market. You could argue that maybe getting Cody Bellinger for a year would have worked to get more pop, but he just signed with the Cubs. It just happened about now.
Yeah, who's left? Nimmo's like the last one left, isn't he?
It's Nimmo, Benintendi, Kevin Kiermaier, and
if you got any of those other last two, are you?
I wouldn't be excited. I would just say, okay, it fits the plug,
Right. So should the Mets do that, or should the Mets? That's why I kind of feel like I can be completely wrong. Get some big trades or something coming up because I don't have I don't have a crystal ball here, but I just don't see that the Mets are going to be doing anything. Yeah. I don't know if there's anything left. I think it's trades. I think free agency is done.
I think especially with how much money they already have on the payroll, it makes more sense to go for a Kevin Kiermaier, get that great defensive center fielder. So then you have money to get another relief pitcher. We still need to get to re-sign Ottavino, and we still need another arm after that in the pen because Seth Lugo's
Bartolo's available. He can pitch every day.
It's true.
Big Sex is ready to go.
It's true. Yeah, so Lugo's gone. Ottavino's still available.
What do you mean? Lugo's gone? Where did he go?
Well, he didn't go anywhere, but
okay.
The Mets aren't the top team interested in him. So it does.
Who are the Mets interested in? I don't hear anyone saying the Mets are actually interested in anyone.
Well,
only the Verlander.
That's the thing is the Mets, since they've been under Cohen, have been very quiet with the press, and that's what I like. I'd rather it be that way and just get the deal done instead of being, every other team's bargaining chip, as they've been in the past under previous regimes with the Wilpons. But with that,
just read this, and I know we only have 2 minutes, but the Angels have set all their Shohei Ohtani giveaway days earlier on in the season, which is odd. They've never done that. All of them will be done before June 27th, which is
wonderful. Perfect.
So it's just all set up for someone to get him. Even if we don't get him, maybe for the trade, maybe we get him for the next season. This is all wishful thinking, but Cano's contract will be off, and that could go just straight to Ohtani. So we'll see what happens.
Okay. Still early.
Still early.
It's very early.
Very early in the winter meetings. Very early in the off season. There's a lot to go. until then, we got Jets football to like, you know, hopefully there'll be playoffs on the rise. We could talk about that in another episode. But for this one, I think the time has come to a close thanks to Zoom giving us our limits.
Okay.
All right. So anybody has last remarks in the last minute?
I have nothing.
All right.
French fries or mashed potatoes, which is better?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I'll tell you this: French fries in a ballpark, mashed potatoes are a little messy.
That's true. That's true. All right. So DeGrom is out. Justin Verlander's in New York. Matt can't believe it. But here we are. You know, we've made it, and we'll see what happens the rest of the offseason. Let's see what happens. Let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets.